A few months with Beauty Smith made White Fang an enemy of all things, brutal and ferocious. His new master kept him tied at all times in a small place surrounded by a wooden fence. There he teased him. Beauty Smith very quickly found out how much White Fang hated the sound of human laughter. So he played painful tricks on him, hurt him, and then pointed his finger at him and laughed loudly. This drove White Fang absolutely mad. The torture made him hate everything around him, the chain he was tied with, the wooden fence around him, the men who came to look at him, the dogs which accompanied the men. He hated everyone and everything, but most of all, he hated Beauty Smith. But Beauty Smith had a purpose in all that he did to White Fang. He wanted to make a proper fighter dog of him, and he succeeded. One day, a large group of men gathered around White Fang's fence. Beauty Smith came inside the fence and took the chain off his dog's neck. He left, but the door remained open. A second later, White Fang saw a huge dog being pushed inside. Then the door was closed again. Here was something he could vent his anger on. And it was a live thing too. He jumped on the dog and sank his teeth into his neck. The men outside clapped their hands and applauded. There was no hope for the other dog from the start. He was too slow and not angry enough. White Fang was the obvious winner. In the end, Beauty Smith had to come in and beat White Fang with a wooden stick, while the owner pulled the other dog out. Then the men paid their bets, and money shone in Beauty Smith's hands. White Fang started to look forward to those gatherings of men outside his fence. It meant a fight, and fighting and killing was now the only way in which he could express the life that was in him. Beauty Smith judged his strength well, and White Fang won every single fight. And with every fight he grew more brutal and ferocious. Beauty Smith had truly managed to bring out the worst in him. Soon he became known in the land as the Fighting Wolf. It was then that Beauty Smith decided they should go on a tour. They got on a steamboat and went to Dawson. There Beauty Smith kept him in a cage and exhibited him for money as the Fighting Wolf. He was given no rest. In order to make the exhibition interesting for the audience, he was kept angry at all times. And in addition to this, he was also a professional fighting animal. So whenever a fight could be arranged, Beauty Smith never wasted a chance to earn more golden coins. It was a brutal land and brutal times, and the fights were usually to the death. But White Fang always won, and as the time went by, there were fewer and fewer fights. There was no dog as good as White Fang, and the game started to lose its point for the audience. But then next spring, a man arrived in Dawson with the first bulldog that had ever come to the land. A fight between him and White Fang was soon arranged, and for a week nothing else was spoken of in certain parts of the town. When Cherokee, the bulldog, entered White Fang's fighting grounds, the audience wasn't kept waiting long for the spectacle. White Fang jumped onto the bulldog, more like a cat than like a dog, and tore his ear into two. But Cherokee didn't even make a sound. This really surprised White Fang. He jumped on him again and tore his shoulder open. Blood appeared on the bulldog's soft skin, but he made no sound still. This dog was different to any White Fang fought before. He had no hair to protect him. He was soft and could be bitten easily, but he didn't seem to mind it much. The time went on, and White Fang danced on, jumping and giving wounds. But the bulldog was still on his feet, patiently following White Fang with his eyes on White Fang's throat. White Fang knew that to kill the dog he had to cut the vein in his throat, but the bulldog was too short for it to be done while he was standing up, and there was no way of knocking him off his feet. His legs were short and strong, and he kept his neck firm and close to the ground. But White Fang tried and tried again, and he tried once too often. While trying to get to Cherokee's neck, he exposed his own, and this was exactly what the bulldog had been for. His teeth closed on White Fang's throat, and he was not going to let it go. Whatever White Fang did from that moment, however much he threw himself and the bulldog about, Cherokee held on to his neck. The battle was not yet over, but it already looked as though White Fang was for the first time going to lose. With every moment, the bulldog's teeth closed a little tighter on White Fang's neck, and White Fang's breath was becoming shorter and shorter. Cherokee's supporters started to cheer while Beauty Smith still couldn't believe that he was about to lose all his money. But when he saw White Fang slowly closing his eyes with resignation, he knew that all hope was lost, and he felt angry, more angry than ever before. He ran up to White Fang and started to kick him as hard as he could. The crowd looked in amazement as Beauty Smith was kicking his dying dog, but not a single person moved to stop him. Suddenly, a young man started to push his way through the crowd. Nobody had noticed him before. His gray eyes shone with anger. He ran up to Beauty Smith and, without saying a word, punched him in the face. Beauty Smith fell into the snow and was in too much shock to move again. "You cowards!" shouted the man, and everything went silent. "You beasts!" Then he turned to an older man following him. "Come on, Matt. Lend me a hand. We've got to pull them apart." It took the two men over half an hour to open Cherokee's jaws wide, enough for White Fang to pull out his neck from between them. The bulldog's owner looked terrified all the while, and as soon as he could, he put a rope round Cherokee's head and disappeared as fast as he could. In the meantime, Matt examined White Fang. "Very nearly," he said, "but he's breathing all right now. Hey, Mr. Beast," the young man turned to Beauty Smith. "I'm taking your dog with me, and I'm going to give you 150 for him." Beauty Smith sat up. "I'm not selling," he said slowly. "Oh, yes, you are," the man answered calmly, "because I'm buying. Here's your money. The dog's now mine." Once the two men and White Fang had driven away, someone in the crowd asked, "Who was that?" "Weedon Scott," someone answered. "It's one of them gold experts. I say, if you want to keep out of trouble, keep away from him. He's friends with all the officials. I thought he must be somebody," was the last comment Beauty Smith heard before he managed to pick up all the dollar notes from the snow and disappear in the direction of the town.